Kids, I mean, don't write me about Bitcoin, please. I mean, I keep telling you, this is for the YouTube. You know, Bitcoin could be 1,000 tomorrow, just because it's 8,000 today. I mean, just, I don't give a fuck, so don't ask me. When it was at 19,000, I said, sell half, keep half. That's the only thing I said, which is just smart trading. And you didn't do that, so don't ask me now. But a smart, rich guy I talked to last night, he said, it's like these guys found a $1,000 bill in the street, or they found a diamond in the street, and the diamond went up in value, and now they're investors. They're professional investors all of a sudden, because they found a fucking $1,000 bill in the street. 99.999% of the people that own Bitcoin are fucking morons. Retarded. Imbeciles. That's just it. Some of you in this room fall into that category. You found a $1,000 bill in the street, just say, well, I found a $1,000 bill in the street. If you found a $1,000 bill in the street, what would you do with it? You cash it, right? You wouldn't hoard it, would you? It's exactly the same. You found some shit in the street that happened to go up in value. So don't ask me anymore. Go fuck yourselves, please. Okay. Last night you watched Fear, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Was there one or two flicks? Two? Two. It was one of them where a couple is walking down an alley and a Mexican guy or somebody comes out and... Yeah. That's my fave. That's because where I come from, I know exactly how to handle that. But we used to give a little test and ask you, pass on your homework, please. We used to give a little test and ask you what you do and all that. But it was so ludicrous. It was kind of like when the guy spit in your wife's face. Well, I want to know if the guy had a bad day or not. You know, maybe he had a worse day than me. Maybe it's all right that he was going to stab my girlfriend. Anyway, so what did you learn about fear? Other than you're all afeared yourselves, but what did you learn about fear?
Fear is brittle.
What?
It's brittle.
Absolutely, it's contagious. And that's why I don't let you talk to each other. Because you're not going to spread best of best. Well, you know, first of all, you don't have any best practices, and when you get the templates and the speeches, you're not going to like them. I already know. And you're going to try to change them. And then when you change them and they don't work, and then you're going to say the system doesn't work. And that thing that has gone viral about why you're poor and I'm screaming, don't change a comma if the syntax is wrong and if its spelling's wrong, but you're going to change them. Because you can't help yourself. Because down deep inside you want a reason for it to not work. Contrary to what you know. And I keep pounding, and the reason I pound it so much is because it's so hard for you to get out of the default. Some people in this room will never get out of the default, no matter how hard I fucking pound you. 5 years from now, 4 years after the fucking mentor program's over, a light will go off in your pea brain, and your one neuron brain. The shoe will drop, or the penny, you know, those sayings. Oh, that's what he meant. And I'll get a letter from you or an email from you. I just got a handwritten letter from some moron from 2001. 2001. The shoe dropped. I don't even give a fuck. I mean, 2001, what the hell? Well, I'm happy for him. That's not really true. I am happy for him. But what else about fear?
What?
Pardon?
What?
And who do you learn it from?
Parents.
Gee. Whiz. Now, remember, I'm not suggesting in any remote way that you go home and you off your parents. But you should for what they did to you. At least Hitler committed suicide. What did they do to Mussolini?
Hung him.
Fucking ain't right they did. What did they do to Saddam Hussein? Success leaves clothes, kids. But I'm not suggesting that. And for real, I'm not suggesting you go back and confront you, because that's don't waste time on things you can't change. You're never going to change your parents. And I had in-laws in that group too. What else about fear?
You overcome what you fear by doing it multiple times.
And that's what Teddy Roosevelt and rode up San Juan Hill, 81 bullets in his fucking... Now, he was a lucky fucker. 81 bullets in his boots, his hat, his coat, his, and none of them pierced his skin. That guy was blessed on that time. But then once that happens, you get Jesus Christ syndrome, and you think, which I have, is you think that you can't die. You can't die. But I don't want you to have Jesus Christ syndrome. I don't want you to go risk your life and do stuff like that. And that's why I demand you do something to scare yourself every day. And for some of you, even though I make fun of it, asking a girl for a phone number at the gym, at the, 24-hour fitness, to me is pretty fucking abysmal. But for some of you, that's it. That's where you start. But then when they say no to you, because I get this in the week, but Dan, they said no. They wouldn't give them the phone number. And in some of the places like New York City, the girls are pretty smart ass about it. And they look at you and, are you kidding me? And that's what you're afraid of. So, but whatever it is you do, daily. Now, I told you about, we've had people walk into Starbucks in Chicago wearing a nappy or a diaper. And I think that was pretty funny. I wish I had seen that one. But we had people walk naked in New York City, didn't even get arrested. But that's New York City. You do that in Columbus, Ohio, you're going to be going to jail. But in New York City, people are crazy. So you do that in London, you're going to probably go to jail. But in New York City, he probably wasn't the only guy walking around naked that day. Anything else about fear? Yes, sir.
Your sort of resistance to fear is developed very early on, and if your parents expose you to multiple situations, variety situations, then it reduces yours later on. Which made me think that with children spending more time on tablets and iPhones, and just generally parents being less interested, it's going to get worse, right? Correct.
And that's why we're past it. It's irreversible. Do you think I wish I didn't just make this shit up? It's taken us tens of thousands of years, unfortunately, to get to where we are. But that's the bad news. But the good news is it's perfect for us. It's a perfect storm. It's a perfect scenario for us, and it sounds awful to take everybody's money in a legal way. Yes, sir.
It's just similar to the reverse bike in that you can't rewrite the pathway, you can only create another pathway. So you basically need to keep confronting fears to be able to grow that. And
show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And that's why I say essentially you can just, everybody almost everybody you can not know them anymore. And I realize how difficult that is. But when you go back, part of the reason you go back to default is your mates. Even if you can deal with your family, which is a tough fucker, but the other people, the guys and the gals that I make fun of it, hang with, but you hang around with. The guys, the guys you play tennis with. You probably play tennis. I never forget, I gave a speech in Las Vegas 20-some years ago to a convention of doctors. I was the keynote speaker. And And doctors in those days, they used to make fun, play golf on Wednesday afternoons. It used to be, I don't know if it's still the case. And so it was tough to see a doctor on Wednesday afternoons. And I asked some of the guys in the audience, and how do you pick your foursome? And he says, whoever's got, Wednesday afternoon off. And so then I was hoping, and I was really a good golfer in those days. And how do you pick it? I said, either they have a lower handicap than I did, and I was low single digit, which was tough to find, or I was going to learn something from them because they were financially where I wanted to be. But that's, the only two types of individuals that I played golf with. And so it was hardly ever they had a lower handicap than I did. But it was because they were, the CEO of Mellon Bank I wanted, they were where I wanted to be. But normally when you play golf with the same four guys normally play golf for years. Normally the same guys play tennis for years. Normally when they go fishing, you go fishing with the same guy. Why? When we go through goals tomorrow and you list I'm going to ask you, every single person that you talk to, link fucked, face fucked, tweet fucked, text in the last 7 days. And some of you are going to lie and tell me 8 people instead of you don't get 600 or 700 emails a day because you only talk to 2 people a week. I had 3 emails today. It was a big day. I was all excited. I wanted to know who they were. 3. And one of them was one of my business partners, and I had written him on the 17th of January. Today is the 1st of February, right? Or 2nd? 2nd of February. And he answers me because my email, ostensibly, allegedly, supposedly, went into a spam file, and see, he's too busy to check his emails, so he has one of his assistants check his emails daily, and she missed it. Well, if you've got so many fucking emails, you've got to have 2 assistants checking them. Something's not right. And so I deleted his answer. I'm not going to answer him. If he can't answer me from the 17th of January, then he doesn't need to be writing me. But getting back to your default is you're going to go back to the guys and gals that you're mixing with on a weekly basis. That's why I tell you, join a club that you can't afford. Or as Groucho Marx, the great comedian from many years ago, used to say, I want a club that doesn't want me as a member. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Pete was a huge pussy snowflake, and he was a disgrace to the male population, the population in general, and he should swallow a revolver, metaphorically.
It's always metaphorically. We don't want anybody offing themselves.
It's sad to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, well, most of the people, the big guys that win the Super Bowl rings and all that, a lot of them are snowflakes. Their emotional bank accounts are non-existing. But, they're catching the ball in the end zone. Or the toughest athletes emotionally are pretty much hockey players. Remember, you have 2 bank accounts. You've got an emotional bank account and you've got a financial bank account. And you've been taught wrongly by your parents for centuries, generations, that the financial bank account is the one that you should be concerned about building up. The challenge is, the challenge during the Great Depression of 30 was that because when your financial wherewithal went away, they had no emotional bank account to rebuild it. I told you yesterday that less than 5% of the financial professionals in the world were around for the '87 crash. stock market crash, when the market went down 40% in an hour and 60% in a day. And we've got guys and gals that are now running money that have never seen tough times. And the financial crisis from 2008, 9, 10, 11 was nothing like it was in 87. Nothing. I mean, it was not even remotely close. So we have people that are making decisions like that. It's very similar. I saw Aberdeen virtually go bankrupt back in the 80s when oil went from 40 to $6. And you would have thought that the North Sea would have smartened up from that, but they didn't. And right now there's 3,000, pun intended, wells underwater. In other words, they're not financially capable of sustaining themselves. At least 3,000 wells in the North Sea. They can't financially sustain them because they were drilled at between $75 and $120 oil. They were financed at between $75 and $120 oil with the projection, the spreadsheets that you guys put together for $200 oil. And that's when I so blatantly said in August of 2014, when oil was $120 a barrel, we will see $40 oil before we see $200 oil. And people laughed at me. And all those investments, if you want to call them that, are underwater, not just because they're underwater. And nobody seems to learn anything. And the same thing with Bitcoin, $20,000. People were saying it was going to go to 50,000, 100,000, right? You read that, right? It's like we don't learn anything. I'm not saying it might not be 100,000 someday, but it's sure as fuck, it's at 8,000 now. And if you look back at history, but nobody looks back at history. And it's perfect for us. Anything else about fear? But when I ask, when you're supposed to list on a daily basis, you did something to scare yourself. Now it's hard. It's harder for me. I do crazy shit because virtually hardly anything scares me. But one of you had mentioned that it's built up from youth. Well, I saw my first dead body frozen to a log when I was about 5.5, 6 years old in Europe. Frozen to a log. I can still close my eyes and see him grimace like this on the log. So most kids don't see dead bodies that early. And somebody saw me wrestling around with a lion when I was 13. I didn't know that I was expanding my comfort zone then. I believe my dad did, though, although we never talked about it, because there's certain, he didn't want me drinking until I was 21, but I could go wrestle with a fucking lion that could eat my head off when I was 13. So somewhere inside he knew that if he kept throwing me into the gauntlet, it was likelihood I wouldn't be a cunt. Although he never talked that way to me. Now I talk that way to my kids. What do you want to be, a cunt when you grow up? Now probably nobody in this room's parent ever said that to him. And look what we got now. See, I can squint my eyes and all I see is vaginas. It's an awful thing to say, and I use these graphic terms because I want to make an impact. Because when you go back to default, and if I try to intellectualize with you about why default was bad, it would be different. See you, YouTube.